discover the history of Lamborghini and the motivations that led a farmer to create his brand and a legacy of world-renowned super sports cars. Every car brand was born in a different way. Today, we're going to tell you the story of Lamborghini and how a provincial brand became world famous. Founded in 1963 by Ferruccio Lamborghini, the famous Italian manufacturer of high-performance and luxury sports cars emerged as a subsidiary of an already successful Ferruccio factory, the tractor factory Lamborghini Trattori SPA. Ferruccio tractors were already very famous at the time and a reference in the agricultural sector. At a time when it was no longer necessary to obtain the title of aspiring Italian industrialist, Ferruccio knew how to manage his economic power well and, thanks to the income obtained in the field of agriculture and the sale of tractors, he enjoyed unconditional freedom to invest in super sports cars. So, being young and passionate about speed, he decided to buy a Ferrari 250 GT, out of respect and admiration for the prancing horse's own brand. However, the history of Lamborghini arose thanks to that same model which, due to a mechanical failure found, gave rise to a kind of revenge, due to a certain argument between Ferruccio and Il Commendatore Enzo Ferrari. Lamborghini was originally created to compete with Ferrari. In fact, it may well have been Enzo Ferrari himself who instigated its creation. Ferruccio Lamborghini owned the then agricultural tractor factory and was, fundamentally, an agro-industrialist. As was common at the time, and being considered a high elite citizen, he used a Ferrari 250 GT in his daily life. One day, after maintenance on his Ferrari at the Maranello factory, he came across Enzo Ferrari, and took the opportunity to complain about the clutch system used by the brand and that model in particular. Well, Enzo turned to Ferruccio with some reluctance and told him that, as a farmer, Ferruccio should continue to drive his tractors instead of Ferrari cars. Offended, Ferruccio then said that he would become his rival and that he would prove how to build a real automobile. And so it was. Ferruccio acquired a large plot of land to build a large, modern factory. It was there that he set up headquarters, in Sant'Agata Bolognese, a city 15 miles from Bologna, and the history of Lamborghini began. At the same time, it hired renowned engineers to build its subsidiaries' first cars. Among the best-known names, the engineers Bizzarini, Dallara, and Stanzani stood out. However, with such a brilliant factory and a culture extremely linked to workshops, it was also common for Ferruccio himself to get his hands dirty when detecting an error. That was a moral code he liked to pass on to his employees and to all those who wanted to be a part of Lamborghini's history. Subsequently, its first prototype was presented. It was designated 350 GTV and gave rise to the first production car of Automobili Lamborghini, named 350 GT, in 1964. This model combined a chassis designed by engineer Dallara with a V12 engine created by engineer Bizzarini. The bodywork was manufactured by Touring Milan, who used their patented Superleggera construction method to attach aluminum alloy panels directly to a tubular frame. The Italian coach, Touring Milan, was already highly regarded at the time. Between 1952 and 1953, the automobile manufacturer Alfa Romeo built, with his collaboration, the bodywork of the splendid sports car Alfa Romeo Disco Volante. In addition to having contributed to the early history of Lamborghini, Touring was also responsible for designing the bodywork of the iconic Aston Martin DB5. However, the 350 GT was a bestseller until 1968 and was renewed in 1966. This is how the story of Lamborghini was told, just 17 kilometers from Ferrari's facilities. This model was a bestseller until 1968. Also in 1966, the famous Lamborghini Miura was launched, which probably became the most important and relevant model in the history of Lamborghini in particular and automotive history in general. The Miura model was also equipped with a powerful V12 engine and was a sales success, both for its bold style and inspired by the shapes of an Italian mannequin, as well as in the canons of aeronautical engineering and aerodynamics. However, this was the model that gave it its name and, in a way, the faithful configuration of what, even today, we consider the architecture of a pure super sports car was evident. For the first time, the world witnessed the first model series with an engine with 12 transverse cylinders mounted in a central position. Its production ran from 1966 to 1973, and the SV model had an excellent reputation for reliability and power. Thanks to its 370 horsepower engine and an acceleration from 0 to 100 km per hour in 5.5 seconds, the Lamborghini Miura was considered one of the fastest cars in the world. In 1973, Lamborghini replaces the Miura model with a model that marked the history of sports cars, the famous Countach. Also equipped with a powerful V12 engine, this model featured a refined and angular aerodynamic design. Its rear engine guaranteed 4,000 of displacement. This model was produced until 1988 with these characteristics. After this date, its engine became 5,000 cubic centimeters. Some stylistic attributes, such as the diamond design and the vertical opening of the doors, are still part of the current DNA of the brand's models. Very successful, the Lamborghini Diablo inherited the name, as is tradition of the brand, from a bull consecrated in bullfighting. Produced between 1990 and 2002, it was designed to replace the Lamborghini Countach. Equipped with a 5.7L V12 engine, it was a 5-speed rear-wheel drive vehicle. Although still fascinating for its segment of finishes and super sports cars, the fact that it takes 4 seconds to reach 100 km per hour and reach 325 km per hour has made this Lamborghini model unforgettable. It is an exclusive Lamborghini model and, at its launch, the brand revealed that only 20 units would be sold to the public and that another would be destined for the brand's museum. While on the one hand it features a new exterior design, inspired by the fastest and most secretive stealth planes, the engine and other technical and mechanical elements were taken from the 2001 model, Lamborghini Murcielago. Each Reventon incorporates a production number and is marked with a sequel, each available for around $1.5 million. Another of the iconic cars that marked the history of Lamborghini was the sports Aventador. With a central engine, this model emerged as a replacement for the Lamborghini Murcielago. Also known as the LP 750-4, this is one of Cristiano Ronaldo's garage cars. The Lamborghini Aventador is considered one of the brand's greatest ambassadors, as it represents 100% everything that Ferruccio stood for, an efficient, well-built car that is genuinely different from the competition. The Lamborghini Huracan appeared in 2014 to replace the successful Gallardo. This model has a hybrid carbon and aluminum chassis, which makes it 10% lighter compared to its predecessor. The bodywork is also more evolved, being 50% more rigid. Like the Gallardo, it has a naturally aspirated V10 engine. This time, the power rose to 610 horsepower. Lamborghini's history is as fascinating as the temperament of its models. It is even ironic how a clutch problem in a Ferrari and an open discussion between two Italian industrialists caused the anger of one to culminate in a certain test in the dispute for the super sports car market. As for the logo, the Raging Bull, it is curious to mention that Ferruccio's sign was bull. He himself was a fan of bullfighting and loved bulls. However, we like to consider that this was the same temperament that Ferruccio had when he left the factory, after his direct contact with Enzo Ferrari, who played a key role in the beginning of Lamborghini's history.